This is Anti-Paper Business Club by Opus Capita. I'm Hana, that's me right there, and my job here is to pass on the wisdom of my marvelous guests onto you all. Listen up. So, welcome back everybody. We have here in the studio Mats Medjebacka from Unit 4 and Per Åberg from Opus Capita. You're watching part 2 on the technical options for ERP integration. See also part 1 on how ERP integration ties into business processes. So let's get a little deeper and maybe talk about the challenges a little bit too. But first, let's start with what do we actually mean with ERP integration? Pat, do you maybe want to start?
It's like as if everyone spoke English in the world, there would be no problems. You could go everywhere, and get yourself understood, and that's kind of sets the scene on how easy it is to integrate. Because if you don't speak Chinese, you will not be able to integrate, and that's where all these different formats come from. And there's a lot of, I think you will hear later about Peppol, for example, which is a great initiative, taking the market by storm. But still, if it would be so nice if there were only Peppol.
Right, so Peppol is an international open network and a standard for electronic message exchange between organizations.
But there are so many other different formats, which has actually sprung from this, as Matt said in the beginning, try to improve the processes. And in order to improve the process, it's very much about automation, because automation, gives these guys more, time to put on valuable things. So,
that's our Lego folks reminding us that these integrations are all about helping people. But what Pat is going for here is that we need standards to enable automation, and in the past, many industries, or verticals as he calls them, have created their own standards.
But then there, unfortunately or luckily, I don't know how you see it, but there are sort of crossover need of those different type of materials between the verticals, and that's where it comes very complex, because then you have this, red box should fit into this blue square hole, and it's kind of hard to squeeze it in there.
Right, and basically we're saying that the problem is that people haven't really been able to agree how we want to do this.
Exactly.
And then we have multiple ways. Do you agree to that?
Yeah, but and traditionally it has been this way. And for example, if we take the wholesales sailors that have been using Edifact and those Edi sending back and forward, I believe that is changing also nowadays, so it's coming more and more towards where the others are going, so to use open APIs and so on. Or what do you think? So I think that we are getting better in this sense.
I agree completely and disagree completely. No, but just joking. But I agree. So, and that's why those when we started, let's say we started like 25 years ago doing this, then it was very much about this Edifact.
And it's still very much about Edifact, because why fix what's not broken, right?
But I see, and I have really good examples. We have one public company in Finland. They have had this EDI for 15 years, and now they are changing their ERP. So what they're doing now, they said, okay, now we want to replace all the old Edifacts. They would replace with Peppol. Yeah. So that's like a wow. We also have a large construction company as a customer doing procure to pay, and they also made a decision very early that okay, because there's a standard, de facto standard in the construction industry called BEAST, which is built upon Edifact, but they also decided that let's go for Peppol.
That's true. Peppol is actually gaining ground not only within the public sector, but also construction, oil industry, and more.
So I think that maybe not before I retire, but at least in some foreseeable future, I think we will go to like a more of a one global standard than this, a new standard in every part of the bushes.
Yeah, we see it also in professional service organization where we are quite strong at Unit 4. So they are also more and more going into this direction, and let's say the traditional file integrations they are becoming less and less.
They are becoming less and less, and there's all this talk about open networks and standards, basically, and we want one standard ultimately. But at the same time, it's likely that you have all these needs in parallel. You kind of need to be able to do all. Does that affect, if you consider your choice of ERP or choice of message exchange, integrating all this, how should you consider all these things?
So our approach and strategy at Unit 4 is now that we know that, of course, the integrations, they have been, it's always a big part of the implementation, traditionally at least. So what we are going to do now, and we have already started on this journey, is that we are including together with the ERP something called Mesh, or in the ERP. And Mesh means that we create ready-made integrations to Peppol, to several operators, depending on, it can be exchange rates, it can be CRM systems or whatever, both external and internal integrations. But the idea is, of course, that we don't need to do everything from scratch in the implementation, that they can select from the shelf that, hey, we want this and this and that.
And the idea is awesome. But here's something to watch out for.
I think that what the question on what you should think of, I think you should really think of who you sleep with, who you get in bed with, because then you need to align with a partner who have the capability of handle actually the most obscure way to integrate. Because otherwise you will not you want to have everything digital. And if you don't, if you find a partner who's very, I only do Peppol. Yeah, okay, you will only get the Peppol volume. But if you hook up with a partner who can say, yeah, but I can take that old Edifact or ANSI X12 or whatever it is and support you with that as well. Because
as said, you want to have everything digital. And it shouldn't matter what format or protocol is used, because you really just want the data, right?
The good things about Peppol is that you define like 3 things, and 3 things are the most important things. The addressing. So, because if you put your name on top or you put it on the bottom, that's like makes a bit difference if the letter will receive the end point. And then it's about the format. But do we speak Chinese? Do we speak English? And then it's the communication. And the communication, that's the other thing. That's like having a fax speaking to a mobile phone will not work. So then that's why I'm saying that, coming back to this communication gods we believe in, if it's like traditional SFTP, or I will come to your question about the challenges, because I think that, I don't know much how you are working with sort of standardized APIs in Aggresso. Is that like
it's Unit 4 ERP nowadays.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
It's old Aggresso.
Yeah. That's
so it has evolved.
Yeah.
We are even talking about ERPX today.
Okay.
But we have standard APIs now and REST APIs that we have there, and we have had them for a while. And I see that, of course, without this mesh, then they also can be cumbersome, because anyway you need to map data, as you had. You need to map from Chinese to English, or from Swedish to Finnish, or from another system to Unit 4 system. Yeah. But this is then the thing that we are trying to get rid of with Mesh, that we have a standard integration. But then I think that we can come back to what you said in the beginning here, that maybe it's not enough for the customer anyway, that they need to have some additional mapping that we don't have, because if you have a standard, then you have a limitation. You have to go with it, or then you choose to not go.
The issue for a lot, yeah. And we try and mingle.
Yeah, but I agree, and I also think that's just to segue on that sort of API and the mesh. What I see is that has been like Peppol. That was like, at least that's an initiative that will actually form the message format a bit, and also, of course, that they set this AS2 as the communication method, which is also good. But when I speak to not only Unit 4, but to other ERP players or even our customers, they say, I want to have you to integrate through my API. and that's super cool because that's fast. It's like defined, fairly easy, and it's like instant integration. But the only problem is that I get from each and every ERP or partner, I get a different API description. So, and then I see that we sort of sometimes end up in the in the sandbox about fighting about whose API is the best.
Of course, it's Units 4.
Yeah, of course it's Units 4 or Superscript.
Or yeah.
No, but that's because then earlier we only had the 5, 10, 15 depends on how you see it, different communication methods, very basic, which has been around for 20 years, maybe even longer. Now we have these guys and girls just coding a cool API, and then we get tons of those, and then we need to adapt to just another interface of uploading APIs or downloading APIs. So I think that's also, and I think we have only seen sort of the beginning of the API era, but that can also, if we can come to sort of standard there as well, can speed up things, but it can also go this other way that it will actually be even more chaotic.
But one additional thing here is, of course, also the transformation to cloud. That will also a little bit change this and the file transfers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I believe it'll be time to wrap up a little bit, but let's help our viewers out a little bit here. So, in very brief, what is the sort of the thing that people should focus on when they think about their ERP integrations, when they think about their message exchange? Maybe in just a couple of words, what should they focus on? How do you know that you're doing the right things?
Let's start with the business process.
Yeah, I think to start with the business process, but I also I do believe that our customers and organizations out there, they know what they are doing. So I would say that they know what their business is, and then it's that okay. I think and I hope also that in the future we can standardize more so that they can say that hey, we can try to look on, we have this and that and those that integration need, and then if we can go and rely on the standard integration that is there, that the software provider can propose to us, then I think that they would get a much easier journey than the traditional way to say that we need this integration and this and this and this, and they themselves find the different fields. So I would say that if we can standardize, the more the.
So standardization, I think it is after all. We're going to have some great other topics. So if you want to hear about for example, the standardization stuff more, you're going to want to subscribe to our newsletter. And while you're doing that, let's say big great thanks to Mats and to Per. This was awesome. And if our viewers should have any questions for you, I'm sure you'll find these gentlemen, for example, in LinkedIn or online otherwise. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for our next episode.